Welcome to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome inside the KDKA TV studios. Bob Pompeani, along with Arthur Moats. We're getting ready for post-game reaction to a Steelers loss. Mike Tomlin is about to address the media. Let's take you to Cleveland right now.
In Acrisure next weekend. From an injury standpoint, man, Darnell Washington had a broken arm. He wasn't able to go back in. The rest is just bumps and bruises associated with play. Questions?
Mike, you surprised your team played like you did with so much on the line?
You know, I didn't think we played poorly. We just didn't make enough plays. I thought they played well. I thought the game was kind of unfolding in the way that you would anticipate, but we never made that signature play that kind of got us over the hump. That generally is the deciding factor in games like this, and we generally make them. We didn't make them today.
Mike, what kept you from making those plays, especially offensively?
You know, they had a lot to do with it. They made some plays, and I'm never one not to compliment worthy opponents, man, and certainly they made plays today.
Mike, how much did not having Darnell Washington affect some of that decision-making in short yardage situations?
You know, we get challenged with the attrition component all the time. We make no excuses regarding that. We got capable men. We adapt, adjust, and we keep moving.
Mike, was Scotty the number one read on that 4th and 1 where Aaron threw it to the end?
He certainly had options, and he was one of them.
Mike, on that play, did not having Darnell affect your decision to possibly not push on that play?
Again, as I mentioned, we got options. Attrition is a component of it. We adapt and keep moving. We make no excuses about what we do or what we don't do, particularly as it pertains to who's available and who's not.
Mike, how much did not having DK affect the passing game?
It was an impact, but we certainly got capable men, and we expect those guys to make necessary plays, and we certainly didn't make enough today.
How do you think the defense did after the first 2 drives?
You know, I thought they kept us in the fight. We got some takeaways. We put ourselves in position to win.
Mike, was there too much focus or emphasis on keeping Miles Garrett from that sack record? Did you feel that from your offense at all?
We didn't do anything against Miles that we don't normally do against Miles. The sack record's irrelevant. We got to minimize him if we want to engineer victory. We did the same thing last time we played him. I didn't think he had any sacks in that game either. And so we didn't take a different approach because of the gravity of the record. It's just standard business when you playing these guys and him.
Like 3 straight shots to MVS to end the game. Was that kind of Aaron's fault, the guy he wanted, or was that what Rodgers drew?
He had eligibles on the play, and certainly he was one of them. And he's a capable guy. I got no qualms about us playing to win the game in the way that we did.
How significant was it for them to get that lead early on? I feel like they pushed the other way.
The start doesn't determine anything other than the start. I doubt that any of us got uncomfortable. It's the nature of kind of how these games go. I thought our ability to put some points on the board prior to the half and then have the ball coming out the second half really kind of made anything that transpired in the first half irrelevant.
Like Darnell out for a significant portion?
That I don't know. I just reported to you guys what I have.
Did Boswell have normal footing on the field that he missed?
It's irrelevant.
Anyone else? All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Mike Tomlin didn't take much time in there, and you would expect it to be kind of a down locker room after that performance. Again, Bob Pompeani with Arthur. Don't cross the moats, and we're here to talk about this game. We'll have more post-game reaction coming up, but what it means, it comes down to the final game of the year. Ravens-Steelers have been in this situation before, but this is one you wanted to avoid given way this weekend started. But Baltimore took care of business last night. They won in Green Bay behind Derrick Henry. And today the Browns came out and scored 10 points. So I would disagree a little bit with Mike Tomlin there. The start determined this game. Cleveland got a lead, and with their defense capable of playing the way they play, 10 points turned out to be insurmountable.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Whenever you're in a close game like how today played out, and it's AFC North football, Browns, top-rated pass defense. So you knew that they were going to come in and do certain things to stymie you, but that's the flip side where you look at missed opportunities, and you can't allow those, especially on a day where you know you're going to be limited personnel-wise without having DK Metcalf.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of this game. He got that 2-game suspension. Really should never have gone over there regardless of what that idiot fan was talking about. Seriously, you can't, as a player, go over there and engage. And I know there's a backstory to it, but it cost him 2 games and cost them 2 games without him. And today the receivers combined for just 8 catches. Arthur, for 62 yards. That was it. And the last 4 passes, all incomplete. The last one batted out. 3 of them went to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I was looking for Gainwell, as I told you, because he's one of those guys who, last 2 weeks has led their team in receptions.
No, he absolutely is. And the funny thing is this, though. It's like, man, us as consumers, us as, fans, we're going to harp on no DK Metcalf. But the former player side, you look at an MVS, you look at an Adam Thielen, you look at some of these other guys, and you say, this is a missed opportunity for you guys. Because if you don't want to constantly hear about the need for wide receiver production, if you don't want to constantly hear about, well, we need to go shop, and we need to, whether it's free agency or in the draft, these are your opportunities. So I get that frustration from the standpoint of where we are sitting, but at the same time, as the player, it's like, man, you guys got to step that up, and you got one more legitimate opportunity coming next week versus Baltimore, because you're still not going to have DK Metcalf.
Yeah, and I thought, although Aaron Rodgers has been terrific the last 3 weeks specifically, today was not one of his better days. I think there were some open receivers at times. I realized they put some pressure on him, and that's a good Cleveland defense. Obviously, they rank number 1 in most every statistical category. So as bad as they've been pretty stingy about giving away points and yards. But I still think Rodgers had some that he would like back.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I think that's the case whenever you watch Rodgers play, and he'll be the first one to tell you that. There's going to be some throws that he could have made, and there are going to be certain checks that I'm sure pre-snap he would have want to go in a different direction. But the problem is hindsight being 20/20. You don't get the luxury of that, in these situations. And the other side is, what that Cleveland Browns pass rush is, so you're constantly having to defend against that. So it makes you, I don't want to say handicap in certain elements, but it makes you not be able to do what you would traditionally like to do in certain scenarios, attack in the middle of the field, or even having a little bit more complex concepts down the grass throwing the football.
Here's another thing that really turned this game. I thought the Steelers had 2 prime opportunities to score points after turnovers. Jack Sawyer gets an interception off the helmet of Logan Lee, as it turned out. Good pressure by Alex Highsmith, who I thought played a whale of a game today.
Absolutely.
However, that resulted in downs. They didn't score. And then they get another one, which was a lame duck throw by Shadur Sanders, and it was intercepted by Kyle Duggar. And again, nothing. They have to punt. They lose it on downs. They get no points out of turnovers. They also had one. I think Nick Herbig had a pick 6 waiting.
Should have had one. Absolutely. And that's the missed opportunities that we're talking about with this group right here. Defensively, they stood up. They made some nice plays, but at the same time, it wasn't enough complimentary football. And then we take it a step further. It's the second week now where we're having a missed field goal at a point of the game where none of us were anticipating that. And we even saw late in the game how that one missed field goal, even though it would have just been 3 points, how it changes the flow. Instead of you playing to just need a field goal to win it, now you're playing for a touchdown at the end of the game. Cleveland, instead of them feeling a little bit more secure, knowing that they had this 1-score lead, it would have been very different playing with just a 1-point lead. So all of these things factor into how you lose to a Cleveland Browns team on the road at this junction of the season.
And the Steelers are now 1-6-1 in their last 8 trips to Cleveland. They just cannot win there when they go there for whatever the reason. Today was another, and as soon as I saw the weather, I said, it's going to be one of those ugly games, and it was. Take a look at the scoring summary, because it started very quickly. Right off the bat, Shadur Sanders came out and was passing first, not running, surprisingly. They got a 28-yard touchdown pass to Harold Fenton, but to me, that's another play that I thought Kyle Duggar should have intercepted. He was right there, sort of overran the ball. It was not a good pass, let's be honest. I don't think he threw the ball well at all today. But he got a 28-yard score. That made it 10-0 after Schmidt gave them a 50-yard field goal. So 10 points in the first quarter. That was it. They did not score again. And at that point, if you had said that, you would have felt pretty good about the Steelers' chances, except they did not get into the red zone all day until the very final drive of the day, when Cleveland was just playing prevent. Boswell 44-yard, Boswell 40, but he missed a 54-yarder in there, and that's what Arthur was talking about. So the 13-6 field goal by Schmidt at the end there gave him a 7-point cushion. Now, I personally thought maybe Cleveland played that a little too conservatively there. All they needed was 1 first down. Steelers had to use all 3 timeouts. If they get 1 first down, that game's over. They never get a shot. And the last thing I would have wanted to do if I'm Kevin Stefanski is give Aaron Rodgers a shot, even with no timeouts. And you saw he moved right down the field. So, that was something I said, Cleveland being Cleveland, that could have been something that killed them.
Well, and I always say, too, that's the fine balance, too, when you're talking about strategy, right? We we criticized the 4th and goal or the 4th and 1 attempt where they throw the deep pass. I think it was to MVS or Adam Thielen, right? And hey, if you complete the pass, man, we're all talking about great decision, great job. We love how aggressive you were. You incomplete it, we turn it over on downs. We're like, why would you throw the football, right? Get back into the tush push. So when I look at, Stefanski in that scenario, yeah, if you're a little bit more aggressive and you're able to get the first down and you're able to kill a lot more of that clock, great job. But when you look at the decision Shedeur Sanders had made 2 series prior to that, where he literally threw it 30 yards in the air for no reason whatsoever, and Kyle Duggar was able to create that interception, I could understand from Stefanski's standpoint where you just want to be a little bit more conservative and say, let's lean on this defense because they're playing really well today.
No, I don't disagree with that. What I'm saying is I would have thought they would have, done something different in the run game. They went straight up the gut. Yeah. Everyone's packed together. I would have spread guys out and still ran it that way. I would not have trusted him to throw it. I agree with you there.
I'm like, man, they're wanting to play it conservative down there. And like you said, it did almost cost them. And I'm sure if you're Stefanski, he's over there saying, I trusted this defense the whole time, even when it was down there to the last play. But we all know the situation. Yes, they would have loved for it to never have even come to that. But that's, the part of this game that we live with at times. And it was just unfortunate that it worked out in their favor today.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have the walk-off.
Absolutely. It would have been nice to have, and that's the way to celebrate, but that's not going to happen until next week, and it's winner take all next week. Today we had a 42-year-old quarterback against a first-year quarterback, and most people would have thought that being a big advantage for the Steelers. In the first quarter, it was not. It went the other way. Shedeur Sanders came out smoking, throwing the ball a lot, even though, again, I thought the touchdown pass to Harold Fannin Jr. was more of a duck pass. But here's your quarterback comparison. A lot of these yards for Aaron Rodgers came later in the game, when Cleveland's trying to just run clock and keep everything in front of them. Your observation about both these guys?
Yeah, man, I thought for us, the pressure, even though it wasn't a ton of sacks that took place, we did have Rodgers get hit. I just thought that we were a lot more cognizant and a lot more impacted by it from a pre-snap standpoint, whereas I thought for the Browns, theirs was more so it would just happen, right? When we talk about Highsmith, I don't feel like Cleveland necessarily went out with the mindset of we're trying to avoid Highsmith, we're trying to do certain things to slow our rush down. I thought they just played their game, whereas for us, we all could watch this game and feel, yes, we are very much aware of where Myles Garrett is. We are very much aware of this pass rush, and we're going to quick game you. We're going to do a lot of screen passes, a lot of stuff that's getting the ball out right away, whereas for Cleveland, they allow Shedeur opportunities to fail, to make mistakes, and we saw that happen. But to me, that was the big difference when I'm thinking of both of these quarterbacks and how they ultimately played today.
Well, bottom line is they lost the game, and that was sitting there right for them to take against a team that came in with just 3 wins. One other component of this that I thought was very important was Bjorquez, their punter, 250 yards of punts on 4 attempts, which averages almost 60 yards. He changed the field position quite a bit and really was one of those numbers you don't think about too much, but a big part of this game. We have more interviews on the way. We'll take a look at downtown Cleveland right now, and the Browns don't have much to celebrate, although they today denied the Steelers, and for them, maybe it's their Super Bowl of the season, because that's pretty much what they had to work with all year. Not much. 13-6 Raven fans take a deep sigh of relief, and now it's Baltimore-Pittsburgh next Sunday. We're awaiting a start time on that. It's tentatively scheduled, or at least we thought it would be 1 o'clock, but it's not going to be that most likely. We'll be right back.
Steelers Extra Point is presented by RE/MAX Select Realty, voted the most trusted agents in real estate.
We're back with more. Aaron Rodgers addressing the media. Let's go to Cleveland.
I'll have to look at the film in a second if they're done.
Throw to Scotty on 4th and 1.
One-on-one.
What needs to change between now and whenever you play next week? Can you do anything?
Not much, just gotta execute better.
Anyone else?
Aaron, when you let go of an opportunity like that to clinch, how difficult is it to bounce back? You know you got one more shot.
I mean, it's not difficult. That's our job, playing all 17.
When you play the Browns, how much is it finding that balance of trying to limit Garrett, but at the same time still getting it going?
We had the similar game plan as the first time. We just executed better in the first game.
How much was it in the back of your mind and in the back of the O-line's minds that Garrett was 1 sack away from that record?
Yeah, so it wasn't on my mind.
Any communication with DK ahead of this game and while he's out?
I'm not going to share that with you.
As a leader here, and there's other older leaders in this team, how important is it for you guys to kind of quickly turn the attention to what's still at stake, get a chance to still win the division next week?
Yeah, win or lose, that's what you do. You move on to the next game.
You
talked about nothing needs hard to bounce back. You guys have kind of already done that once you have some of the first game back. Does that make it a little bit easier to have confidence in your ability to do it again? I have full confidence we'll go home and win next week.
Anyone else? Is Marquez a guy who just had the most confidence in throwing the ball 3 times in the end zone there? Or what
Marquez?
Yeah,
I do.
And what gives you that confidence you guys are going to be able to right the ship next week?
Because we've done it all season. We've handled adversity well, and we had to play our best ball. And, we did, other than today.
All right.
I think most people are going to be short and sweet today. Get on the bus and head back to Pittsburgh and try to shower this one off. But Aaron Rodgers not saying much. The only thing I said at the end of that, I was telling you too, Freiermuth had just made 3 very good plays, 2 in the middle of the field. They took advantage of Schlesinger, who's been hobbling around. Give him a lot of credit for playing. He looked like he shouldn't have been in there, but he's going to be probably the rookie of the year defensively in the AFC. But I thought Freiermuth should have been a bigger part of this, not just at the end of the game, but throughout this course of this game, especially when Darnell Washington went out with his broken arm.
No, absolutely right. And I think that is one of the things that when we're, talking about Arthur Smith, or even when he goes in and he self-scouts himself, there are going to be certain things that he's going to be questioning. Hey, should we have went there? Once again, though, for every action, there is a reaction. So to stretch the middle of the field to attack there, he has to question, okay, what could we have done protection-wise maybe differently? But at the same time, you can't play not to lose. You have to play to win. And I think that that's the part where there are going to be certain decisions that he's going to look back on specifically in this game that, maybe changes for him next week. But that's definitely one of the things that me and you both were in agreement with in terms of Move getting more opportunities.
Yeah, I really thought this was the game made for tight ends. You didn't have DK Metcalf. You didn't have Calvin Austin. You had a bunch of guys who, are really down the depth kind of wide receivers as much as they're established in their careers. The tight ends were brought here to be used, and they weren't used as much as I thought they would be. Let's take a look at Pat Freiermuth's day, because 3 receptions, again, 2 of them came very late, and 2 were impactful. They moved right down the field for 63 yards, 5 targets on the day. That was it. If you look at Jonnu Smith, he also had 5 catches just for 18 yards, and not much after that. So I think, Cleveland obviously did a very good job. And another key to this is 3rd downs. While the Steelers had their way with the Detroit Lion defense last week on 3rd down, Arthur, not so much today. They were 3 of 12 on 3rd downs. And, when you don't move the chains on 3rd downs, you're going to end up with this kind of situation. And Cleveland took full advantage of it.
No, that's absolutely the case. And we know, in terms of the records, yes, Cleveland, way worse record than Detroit. But defensively, Cleveland way better defense than Detroit. And I think that that's, part of the issue. Just when we're talking about these matchups, it's like, man, as much as I would love for the Browns defense to match the Browns offense at times, we know that this Browns defense, they're playing well. And the unfortunate part was this for us offensively. The Steelers have been looking a lot better coming into this game, right? We talk about how they look versus Detroit. This kind of goes back to what we saw versus Bills versus Baltimore, where we were kind of all feeling like, man, we need this offense to be a little bit more consistent. Now, DK not being out there, yes, that had an impact because defensively, you're going to play this offense way differently, way more aggressively when you don't have a DK to defend. But that still doesn't excuse the fact that offensively, you have to figure out ways to move the football. And that's why you pay Jonnu Smith. That's why you pay Pat Freiermuth. So for those guys to not have a little bit more impact today, that's the part that is definitely frustrating.
Yeah, and again, they had lots of other opportunities there. I think of those 2 interceptions that did not result in anything. There was also the tush-push conversion that came on a 3rd and 1, and it was Connor Heyward veering right, taking a nice block by Jaylen Warren and going for 29 yards. And right after that, incomplete pass, -3 on a run. Next thing you know, there's Devin Bush making obviously a good play there. He led them in tackles of all things. So they shut it down when they had to, and the Steelers could not have an answer for it. And what was a bad offensive performance today. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is talking to the media. Let's go there now.
Yeah, it sucks. Obviously, you want to win, get into the playoffs, and we didn't get it done. We left some plays out there on offense. I know myself included in that. To win the game, the defense played amazing. Got us the ball back several times to go win the game, and we didn't get it done.
Why do you think you guys couldn't get into a rhythm?
I mean, they're a really good defense.
Obviously, it's fresh, which is how you guys going to have to turn the page quickly and get ready for that.
That's the NFL, man. We won't win every single game, and that's how you have to approach it and go correct our mistakes and get back on Monday and assess what we did wrong and try to correct it for this big game coming up.
2 more guys, too.
How much do they get hurt not having DK out there?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league.
Does that trust with Aaron, does that kind of come out there on that last play? You have a feeling that ball's coming to you?
Yeah, I mean, obviously me and him have a really good rapport. We just couldn't connect a couple times down the field today, and, that sucks.
Yeah, it does. Not much to offer there from those wide receivers. I really thought Roman Wilson might get a little bit of some action here today, but we didn't see him at all.
Yeah, and I think, too, when we're looking at Rodgers and MVS, they have a history. So as a player, right, when you've been to battle multiple times with a player and you've had success multiple times, you're going to naturally feel more confident in that player. And I do feel like that was why we saw more of the MVS targets down the stretch. Adam Thielen, another proven veteran, another guy that for Rodgers has a healthy respect for in terms of him professionally. So I think that was the reason why we saw more of them versus it being more of the Roman Wilson element, even though that is still frustrating because it's a guy that we invested a nice draft pick in. It's a guy that we feel like has potential, but there is a certain level of trust, and we're seeing how quickly these decisions have to be made. You don't get to, come back and get a do-over with it. So in those moments, I think that Rodgers is just defaulting to guys that he feels confident in, guys that he's seen do this versus guys that are trying to prove they can do this and prove that they belong at this level. And I think that that's just, part of being a younger guy in this league right now.
Yeah, Adam Thielen had some targets today, 5 of them, just 2 catches. I thought Tyson Campbell played a really good game today. He was their best defensive player out there. But it denied Thielen of what would have been a conversion. Adam Thielen with just 2 catches today, 14 yards. All right, Cam Heyward's at the podium right now. Let's take you there live in Cleveland. Here with number 97 has to say.
Questions for Cam?
Kim, how disappointing is it to have a chance like that to clinch and not be able to do it?
Tough. We had our opportunities. Offense, defense, special teams, we had some clear opportunities. But, got to swallow that pill, go home, bring on Baltimore.
Cam, how tough is that pill to swallow? What do you do to try to get everybody past it?
The competitor in me is we lost this game. We lost a chance to clinch it today. But the competitor in me is like, bring it on. Baltimore's coming in. Winner takes all. I have a lot of respect for those guys over there. But let's win it at home.
Do you guys think was unnecessary added pressure on the entire team this week to get it done?
What do you mean?
I mean, do you feel like there's going to be a lot more pressure this week rather than sitting out?
It's pressure on everybody. I don't. We play in a professional league. There's pressure every week. If you're not ready for that pressure and you feel like it's unwanted, I think you're in the wrong league. I think when you play in this, there's always going to be pressure.
Cam, is it hard to regroup after a disappointment like that?
No.
Kim is one of the
It
leaders.
seemed like you guys settled in more defensively in the second half. What
Yeah.
led to you guys finding more of a rhythm?
I thought we quit giving up the bonehead plays early. Giving up the touchdown, that's the difference in the game. We had a chance to play on the ball. We didn't. And then we controlled the line of scrimmage from there on out. But that's a lot of tough sledding against that team over there. They have a good defense as well. It was a battle for field position in the second half. Even at the end, we knew, we get off again, we can give ourselves another chance. I commend our guys for doing it. But, all you ask for is a chance. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't.
As one of the leaders of this team, what would be your message to the group about how you expect them to respond to this?
It's for everything this week. You don't have to look around. You don't have to wait for somebody else to play. It brings you back to the high school ball where, everything's riding on every single game. And if you're a competitor and you understand this rivalry between Baltimore, this is what you want.
I think it's one win here since 18 for you guys. I mean, what is it about playing here in Cleveland? Did they get up for it more? Is it something about the intimacy of the rivalry? Can you put your finger on it?
Every game's different. It usually comes down to those opportunities. And we did not seize those enough. field goal there or, converting on a 4th down. It's those moments, and you respect it. They got it done here. Hats off to them.
Cam, teams talk about, players talk about momentum in their favor. In light of the inspired football that the Ravens played, do you feel that the Steelers took a shot now as towards momentum?
We've had momentum. One game doesn't, get us off that train. We've been playing good ball as of late. There's still things we can hang our hat on. Stopping the run, turnovers, controlling the ball when we did on offense, and giving yourself a shot late. That's all you ask for. But momentum is one thing. Playing good ball is another thing.
Do you still like the position you're in, Cam? You still like the position you're in?
Yeah.
Why you?
Because we control our destiny. We don't have to look around. Week 18, ball's in our home court, and I expect our guys to be locked in, ready for this opportunity.
Cam, you mentioned turnovers earlier. You all had 2 interceptions, and you didn't get a win. That's unusual. How frustrating is it to win the turnover battle and not come away with a victory?
There's turnovers, and we miss them as well. If we're critical of our team, be critical of our defense, we had some clear opportunities to, see some more turnovers as well. We talk about taking care of the ball. We talk about taking the ball away. There was just missed opportunities we missed, and we don't have to search, high and low for them. They're very glaring.
Cam, how different of a run defense do you feel like you guys are now than when you played Baltimore last time?
We'll find out. We got our work cut out. I know that monster over there went for, big yardage this past week. But we got to draw up a good game plan. Always comes down to accountability, gap integrity, getting off blocks, and, seizing the ball when you got a chance.
All right, thanks, Cam.
Thank you.
All right, that's Cam Heyward after the game, and this is the first time the Steelers this year did not turn the ball over and lost. They were a +2 in that department, although, Arthur, they did fumble a few times. They were lucky to get it back, but still, normally when that happens, they do it. Since we're talking about Cam Heyward, I just want to get your, as a defensive player, your take on the roughing the passer call that he had to endure when I thought it was just a good defensive play. They have that body weight clause in there. Yeah. Should that be removed? Because I don't know what he's supposed to do as a defensive player.
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy. I'm always going to side with the defense. But this is
objectively,
this is the byproduct of what the NFL wants. The NFL wants their quarterbacks to constantly be available. And the highest probability for that is to literally make it where those guys cannot physically be touched in any capacity. That's the biggest reason why we even see such emphasis around quarterbacks sliding when they're running versus even when they dive head first. And us as a defender, yeah, we should still be able to hit you if you're diving head first because you're a runner. But we've seen how that has been penalized and that has been officiated, even, how quarterbacks maneuver on the sideline. So I think until the NFL as a whole decides to reel back some of the protections, you're going to continue to see this type of stuff. And for an official, when it comes down to a 50-50 judgment, they're all erring on the side of throw the flag because it's a quarterback. It's unfortunate. I absolutely hate it. But this is, where we are as a league because they want the quarterbacks out there. And we know quarterbacks sell tickets, man, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you're at.
Cam Heyward said, well, now they don't have any distractions. It's right here, one game. But they had the same scenario today. They didn't have to scoreboard watch today. They knew what they had to do at a team that only had 3 wins, and they couldn't get it done. So next week, it is a must situation. If you don't win, you're going home. The season's over. If you do win, you get that number 4 seed. We'll talk more about that potential coming up here with the Ravens, who really ran it right down the throats of the Packers last night. Cleveland tonight. Is that victory orange? Whatever it is, they win the game 13-6 over the Steelers, a game where the Steelers failed to score a touchdown. We'll be right back after this.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
Bob Pompeani along with Arthur Moats today as we talk about that game. 13-6 final. That means next week it's winner take all at Acrisure Stadium. We're awaiting a time for that, and we should have it by the end of the day. At this point, it's undetermined. Let's talk about the defense, because the Steelers, aside from the first quarter, played a really good defensive game, but that's a big part of this. They came out flat, and Cleveland took full advantage of that as they passed the ball down the field. Here are your leading tacklers for today's game, and you can see that Kyle Duggar had 8 of them, although I thought he misplayed the Harold Fannin touchdown. He was in position. Chuck Clark also a couple times burned, but he did have 5 of those tackles. Cam Heyward was all over the place, running like he normally does, sometimes 10 yards down the field to make a tackle. Ramsey made some big hits in this game, and I thought Peyton Wilson did well as well. Patrick Queen always made some big plays when he had to. Number 6 spoke to the media after the game. Let's hear from him.
Get them next play, like every play counts. So I think, today showed that like every single play, especially in the season like this, December football, every single play gonna count. So we gotta do a better job at that next week.
At the same time, how do you welcome the challenge of, hey, it's a winner-take-all game at home on your home turf against one of your biggest rivals?
I think you got to be a competitor. I think if you really love the sport and you really love the game, you have to be a competitor. It could have been an easy way out today, get the win, and next week probably chilling or something. But now you got to come play football now. Season on the line. I'm a competitor, so I love it.
Do you feel like there's no change to that? Have you communication with any of the Ravens guys? Anybody texting you before today? Or
no.
Patrick, is it going to be easy to turn the page after a game like this?
I don't think we need to turn the page. I think we just need to come to work and do what we got to do and secure wins like this. There was too many opportunities for us to, get off the field or whatever it may be. So we just got to be better. That's all. Just be focused, locked in, one play at a time. Understand your job, understand the assignment, and do it.
Do you feel like there's a lot more pressure on you guys this week now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like there's a lot more pressure on you guys this week now?
I don't think it's pressure. I think it's just, do you want to keep playing or not? Do you want to try to get to the Super Bowl or not? For me, I look at it, there's a lot of people on staff or younger guys who could use extra checks. That would benefit them a lot. And I just love football. So at the end of the day, I'm ready to play.
So Queen's Day, 5 tackles, 4 solo, tackle for a loss. Again, that defense played better as the game went on, but the question is, Arthur, how slow start right out of the gate. You knew what was on the line here. It was a win and you're in. You don't have to worry about next week. That means you take a day off for your regulars. You get what would have amounted to a bye week for some of the irregular players. Now that goes out the window. You're going to have to play a very physical game, hard-fought game just to get to the playoffs. So I think that hurts them really significantly. But what about the slow start today? Why out of the first quarter they were down 10-0 and really dominated?
To me, I'd look at it like this. When you talk about Cleveland the past 3 weeks, right? First 2 series of the game is usually when they've played their best. Shador specifically as well, man. And even last week that showed up. And part of that is because you don't know what to expect when you're playing against a quarterback that doesn't have a lot of tape out there. So you're filling it out early on. And flip side was Cleveland actually executed early on. But as the game continued, and this is, what you account for as the defense with the veteran players, you're saying to yourself, man, once we get enough information, hopefully you can get it within the first series. If it takes 2 series, cool. But after that, they can't have anything else happen. And that was how it played out. The unfortunate part was you give up the touchdown early and the way the rest of the game flowed because of our offense. Now it makes it way more, impactful, way more standing out. But 13 points was what was allowed. And 3 of those literally came with the last, minute of the game. So as much as we emphasize it, it still flows back to we got to play complementary football. You have to, when you're getting short fields, turnovers.
Right.
Think about it. We won the turnover possession, and we won time possession. We actually outrushed them, but no touchdowns. That's the issue right there. And part of that was because of Cleveland, but regardless of why it happened, it still happened. And that's the thing where offensively you have to, figure out ways to punch that in there. But that's kind of how I look at this situation right here.
This was on the offense today. They couldn't do enough defense, even though the 10 points right off the bat put them in a hole. You got to score more than 6 points in this game against that team.
Especially when 2 of those turnovers put you on the short side.
And one of the guys who made a turnover was Jack Sawyer. We're going to hear from him right now because he made one. It looked like if he had gone to the inside or the outside instead of the inside, he may have had a pick 6 there. Let's hear from what he had to say.
Obviously when you lose, it's frustrating, especially, what we were playing for today. It's frustrating, but, we give them credit. They played a good game.
I guess the one thing you can look at is you guys aren't eliminated. So next week, how do you kind of turn the page?
We have to. We got no choice. It's on the next week, and it's a must-win game, and get back to work and then make the corrections we need to make.
I know we're not there yet, but do you feel like there's lot more pressure now on this week to go out and win next week?
I don't think we feel any pressure. It's we're going about our business, and our business is winning. And every time we don't win, it sucks. And every week going into the week, all of them are must wins. So, I feel like we've been in the playoffs for like the last 5 weeks, and that's kind of the mentality we've had. So it's nothing different, but we know what's at stake.
What was working so well for you guys today, just as a defense? You're helping score. This is second half, you forced all those turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
What was working?
Yeah, I just think that we're getting better in the right areas, at the right time, and we played really aggressive and stopped the run for the most part, I thought too, which was huge, and just played good collective defense.
For your interception.
It was blessed to be able to make that play, but we didn't get the win. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I made a big interception, but again, they got nothing out of it. Turned the ball over on downs. They got another one later by Kyle Duggar, and they had to punt it away. So those are things you'd like to capitalize. You talked about complimentary football. That's exactly what it should be. Just want to get your thoughts about real quick. The Steelers shut down Shedeur Sanders. I thought if they had ever gotten a lead in that game, it was going to be difficult for him to come back the way he was throwing. What is your assessment of this first-year player? It's tough in the NFL, but he looks uncertain at times to me.
No, absolutely right. He looks uncertain, and at times he's trying to continue to be a playmaker because at every level he's been able to do that. But you can see at this level, when the play is over, you have to throw the football away or take the sack. You saw even on the interception, that's just a player trying to do too much. And young players that have had success prior to coming to this level, they do that a lot. And that's why you saw the inconsistencies early on when it was simplified, when it was, we're not asking you to do a lot. Man, he hit the throws that he needed to make, and he even had a lucky, misplaying of the football, and Harold Fanning finds a way to get into the end zone. But as the game progressed and you get less of those opportunities to be protected in more situations where now you actually have to go out there and be a playmaker, you could see where he is still struggling as a young player to read coverages, pre-snap to post-snap, and that's why you see him play a little bit faster than he would like to and just look a little bit more uncomfortable than if you were a guy that watched him at Colorado or even in high school, where this guy has always looked under control.
Yeah, no question about that. Defensively, I thought one of the better players out of the field all over the place was Alex Highsmith, and he has done this for the last couple of games. Quick off the football, getting around, pressure on the quarterback, even tackling guys from behind like he did on the one Shedeur Sanders takedown. Let's hear from 56 after the game.
We had the chance, to lock up the division, so it's definitely frustrating. But we got a big opportunity next week, and we got to make the most of it.
Seems like the playoffs obviously start a week early for that. It's going to be easy to kind of turn the page after this one.
No, it has to be. Obviously, it's a big matchup coming up. But we're at home. We're against a division rival, and we all believe in each other. Everyone believes in everybody in this room, so we got to play like it, and we're going to play like it.
Do you feel like there's a lot of added pressure now on you guys this week?
No. I just think we got to go out there and do what we do, and let's play winning football. And we're going to be at home. The crowd's going to be into it, and like I said, everybody believes in everybody in this locker room, and so we just got to play like it. And it's going to be an intense game, and it's moments like I said, it's definitely frustrating not getting it today, especially on the road against a division opponent. But we got a big opportunity next week, and we got to have it.
You guys haven't been able to win here since 2021. What is it about Cleveland to make it so tough to play?
All right, that's Alex Highsmith's day there, you see. The 3 tackles, but, it was more impactful. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for losses, 4 quarterback hits. Those last 3, that's what you want from an outside linebacker. And no T.J. Watt again in this game, but yet, despite that, he's been able to put up big playmaking games.
Yeah, Highsmith has shown that he is not necessarily a Robin, but more so a 1B in terms of the production that you've seen from him without T.J. Watt. And specifically when we're talking about him today, that first interception, that's him causing that pressure. Obviously, the ball bounces off of Logan Lee's face mask, but the pressure was Alex Highsmith. And to me, that's one of those guys that we continue to believe in. And I think it's a refreshing thing also to see that the organization didn't jump the gun early on and trade him when we felt like we had such a plethora of pass rushers, because as you can tell, when injuries happen, you're going to get stressed from a depth standpoint, and you have to have those players that can come in and have impactful games. And that's what we're seeing from Alex Highsmith, and not just him. Jack Sawyer is another guy. We're seeing production from him with more opportunities. And even Herbert, granted, he dropped the interception today, but he's still another guy that you're seeing with those 3 players, production And it doesn't matter if TJ Watt isn't out there, and that's the sign of depth at that position. That's the sign of confidence, knowing that you can rely on those guys, regardless of who else is going to be out there with them.
TJ Watt, you mentioned him. When we come back, we're going to talk about him. Can he play this week? Will he play? He's been cleared to return to practice, but this is a winner-take-all. I think the Steelers would have preferred winning today, not playing him next week, and then coming back with a fresh Watt in the playoffs. But that obviously has not been the script. It's changed. Will he play next week? We'll get into that more as we continue right here on the Ford Extra Point.
Steelers Extra Point is brought to you by Chafin Luhana, doing good by doing right.
Bob Pompeani back here with the man who ended Brett Favre's consecutive game streak. For those of you young enough haven't seen it, go to Google or go to wherever, YouTube to find it. Put a hit on Favre and his, how many games was it in a row?
I think it was two.
It was a lot. It was a lot. But that hit he couldn't come back from. I have to do that every time Arthur's here because you don't cross the moats. All right, let's take a look at the AFC playoff picture. And you will see that Denver has clinched their division. New England, obviously, so did Jacksonville today. Now, the 4 seed, of course, is up in the air. Steelers certainly have it now, but they got to win next week to secure it. Jacksonville can still get the number 1 seed if Denver and New England lose and they win next week. Buffalo, they play the Eagles tonight, Arthur. All these wild card teams to me are dangerous. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that that's the AFC as a whole this year. It's a lot of teams that you can see them being really well, but then there's times where like, man, how does this team have 6 losses? How's this team ending up in this portion of it? But I think that bodes well for the Steelers. If we're able to ultimately take care of business next week, you don't necessarily feel like how it's been in years past, where it's a juggernaut team or these teams that we feel are insurmountable. The best team in the AFC right now, we've already beaten. So to a degree, you still have to have a certain level of confidence with that. But all of these teams in the AFC, to me, allow it to be wide open. And I think that that's the exciting part about this year's playoff run.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is, again, if you had won today, you would have made next week a game where you could rest all the significant players, get healthy. But it does lead up TJ Watt. Do you get the feeling, because I do, that he'll play in this game? He was back at practice this week.
Yeah, TJ Watt returning to practice I thought was huge. But obviously when you're talking about all the chips being pushed to the middle of the table this upcoming game, yes, I do anticipate TJ Watt, if he is healthy, I feel like he will be out there because he's not going to be a guy that wants to watch his team go and play in a one-game winner-takes-all situation and him being healthy standing on the sideline. That's not the TJ Watt that I know. So I do feel like if he is healthy and good to go, he will be out there.
All right, well, we're wondering about that. We know that DK Metcalf won't be there. You're hoping that Austin returns from his injury. In the meantime, Scotty Miller, who did make one play today, and he was the target of another one that didn't work so well. This is what he had to say after the game.
Other than that, similar, but it's always tough when you don't have a freak like DK on the backside that they have to double team.
That 4th down, was that play going to go to you no matter what, or was that the first option, the 4th down?
The go ball in the end zone? Yeah. I was an option. I mean, we had a concept on the backside of that play. I was singled up. We knew I had one-on-one with number 7. He was pressed on me, so Aaron had trust in me. We just couldn't connect. I thought I had a step on him. We just couldn't make it happen.
Scotty, how frustrating is it for you guys as an offense when your defense is shutting them out in the second half, getting stops, forcing turnovers, and you guys aren't able to capitalize?
Super frustrating. Got to give it up to the defense, shutting them down time after time, and it's just we got to be able to get it done, got to be able to play better than that and execute.
I know it's not your job at all, of course.
Opportunities that just feel like against a 3-win team with a chance to win the division for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's a 3-1 team, but it's a game that it's a rivalry. They always play well against us. It's never easy, so we weren't expecting to come in here and run away with it. We knew it was going to be a tough game, but definitely frustrating. But it's the NFL. We got a great opportunity next week to get it done.
I know it's obviously not your job at all to block him or whatever, but how much is Myles Garrett, how much emphasis was that this week in making sure he doesn't disrupt the game?
Yeah, huge emphasis, as it always is, playing one of those game wreckers. You can't let him take over. So I thought it seemed like the guys did a good job up front.
Yeah, we talked a lot whether or not the Steelers were preoccupied thinking about not giving up that Myles Garrett record and was on our minds too much. I'll get Arthur's take on that in a second, but these are your final stats. Yeah, again, the Steelers had the better of this. The one thing I'm going to ask you first, though, Arthur, is they only ran the ball 24 times for 131. That's a 5.5-yard clip, yet they threw it 39 times against the number 1 pass defense in the NFL. That didn't make sense to me.
Well, I think it's one of those things, too, where as much as we would love to just say, hey, man, they can't stop the run, just run it 30, 40 times, I think situationally, certain plays did, or at least schematically what the Browns were doing, did make Aaron Rodgers check out of it. And the same way we saw him check into some runs as well. I think the frustrating thing is when we were looking and we're saying, hey, could we have had more runs? But we all know how we felt. I think it was on that 4th and 6 where we decided to run it back to back. And it's like, no, don't run the football right here. That's the frustrating part with this. There isn't necessarily a clear cut, this is when you should do it or this is when you should not do it, but the execution as a whole is what's going to determine how we feel about these calls. And when we're not executing consistently enough, that's the issue. We ran the ball well, but when we needed to get the first downs at the end of the game running the football, we could not run it at all. And I think that that's the part where it leaves us all scratching our head asking, hey, why this versus not in this scenario? But the execution, and that's what you're continuing to hear the players emphasize, the execution, because they know they left plays out there. Regardless of how well Cleveland's defense played, there were still opportunities that the Steelers had offensively to get out of this stadium.
Yeah, it's just coming off a game like Detroit where they ran the ball for 230 yards and limited the lines to 15. You would have thought that would have just continued, and it did in terms of average per run at 5.5. Jaylen Warren is running hard. He always does. Now, he did have the ball stripped out today. They did not recover it, but 12 for 64, that's a 5.3. And Gainwell's another guy that, again, at the end of the game, I thought maybe they'd look to him a little bit more. Those two running backs have given a lot to this, and they're also very good in pass blocking. Blitz pickup.
Absolutely. And you saw that on display as well, man. I think that part of that also stymied Kenneth Gainwell's ability to be more productive because he had to be a little bit more intentional and aware of what Myles Garrett is. And that's the difficulty or the challenge when you're playing against these type of players. The same way when we have TJ Watt out there and you see, you better have a tight end over here, you better have a running back, you better do certain things protection-wise. That's the same thing that we had to do, unfortunately, today, but you can see the impact that it has. Yes, he didn't have a sack, but it stymies you and it limits what you're able to do throwing the football and just getting into a rhythm passing the ball. So to me, that's his impact, but there's still opportunities. There were still plays to be made, and that's the part where, for the Steelers, they have to get in that lab because Baltimore has life right now. Baltimore is going to be feeling like we just came off of a must-win situation, and they're coming into a game now where we're the team that's kind of limping into this, whereas for them, they're feeling confident. But this is the challenge that you want. If you are a competitor and you feel like you belong at this level, you feel like you belong on this black and gold team, this is where you got to step up. It's going to be a big week for them, though.
Again, the wide receivers today without DK Metcalf, without Calvin Austin, 8 catches. That's it for 62 yards. Adam Thielen had 2 of them, and he spoke after the game.
No, obviously, these are the games you want to play in with a chance to, right your own ship and make the playoffs. So, yeah, disappointing, but we got to go right back to work.
What do you think the offense can get into a rhythm here today?
Yeah, just momentum, just earning some early first downs. I think that's always good for an offense. You can kind of get the ball rolling by just kind of earning some first downs early in the drive, and we never really kind of accomplished that.
How do you put this behind you, kind of turn the page? You still have a chance to win a division next week.
Well, I mean, look at it as next week's a playoff game, and so you have to move on quickly. You got to learn from some of the stuff that happened today, and then move on as fast as possible. Because, like I said, it's just the playoffs start a week earlier for us.
How frustrating was it that you guys, your defense was making some big plays, creating turnovers, and you guys just weren't able to capitalize on those plays?
Yeah, I think that's usually, as an offense, the most frustrating thing when you feel like you're letting the team down because our defense played so well, had so many, gave us so many opportunities to short fields and getting us the ball to be able to go and score and ultimately win the game. We knew that if we could go and score, we were going to win the game. Obviously, we didn't get that done.
All right, that's Adam Thielen after the game, and all those guys were asked about whether or not they were thinking about Myles Garrett and their role in maybe stopping him from getting that record. He currently is tied with T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan. He didn't get the record today. Was there too much emphasis on that? Because we saw a lot of short passes, a lot of Rodgers seemingly aware of where Myles Garrett was, which is normally the case. You got to be aware where he is all the time.
1,000%. I mean, and this is the thing. Us as media, us as fans, we emphasize the record way more than those guys in that locker room. But at the same time, you have to be aware of where a guy like that is. You have to go to the quick game passing attack. Otherwise, we've seen the 5-sack performances from Myles Garrett. We've seen how he can literally take over a game. So this is the challenge of dealing with those type of guys. Do you allow them to play freely and you play 50-50 if you're going to get it out on time or if he's going to take over the game? Or do you play with such an intentional game plan to say we are not going to allow this player specifically to make plays? And by doing so, it's going to limit you in other areas. But that's the strategy question. We don't always agree with it because of the outcome, and I'm with you with that. But just last week versus the Lions, right? Early on in that game, we had a moment where we decided we're going to take some shots downfield. And we saw Aiden Hutchinson blast Aaron Rodgers, and all of us felt a sense of anxiety. It was like, oh, man, we can't have that happen. So we went back to the quick passing attack, and the explosive runs opened up some more of that. Today, we just didn't get the explosive plays off of the run. But to me, that's how you have to play against these guys. Otherwise, they can take over the game.
Myles Garrett, for the record, still a half sack. That's what he needs to set that record. Tied T.J. Watt and Strahan then, and 1 sack would do it. And he has 1 more game to do it. He'll do it next week, at least try to. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Ravens and the matchup. It's going to be a juicy one, no doubt. So much on the line. Playoffs or bust next week at Acrisure Stadium following a Browns win over the Steelers 13-6 today in Cleveland, Ohio.
Welcome back to the Ford Steelers Extra Point.
We're back with more. Bob Pompeani and Arthur Moats and Sue, and we'll be taking your phone calls on a special Steelers edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. We want to hear from you about today's game and also the prospects of the Ravens and the Steelers. Let's take a look at the AFC North standings as they stand right now. So the Steelers could have won today and put it all as a moot point, getting to 10-6. Instead, they're now 9-7. Again, the Ravens are right behind them at 8-8. Bengals, Browns eliminated, but the Browns accomplished what the Ravens needed today, so I'm sure there's a thank you for them. Ford road ahead. There's not much left unless you get into the playoffs, and that's where the Steelers would like to get. But it starts with a win next week, and I think Adam Thielen set it up right. This is a playoff game. You may as well call it that. Again, we're not sure about the times or the dates here. The NFL should have this out by tonight because there's not much time. I mean, it is Sunday, and it is ultimately another game week. So sometime tonight during the Sunday night game, I would imagine we're going to hear something. But if they should win against Baltimore, then it would set up first round at home, either January 9th or 10th or 11th. So I want to ask you first about the Ravens. They're coming off this. Now, they must feel like they just, stay of execution here, right? Because they were down and out, had to win last night, which they did. And the key is Derrick Henry. Now, the Steelers have been kind of a Jekyll Hyde team when it comes to stopping the run. We've seen them dominate a 1-2 punch in Detroit, and that's a tough one with Gibbs and Montgomery. We've seen them slow down Swift in Chicago, and they have a good 1-2 punch there as well.
Even
but they
Devin
also
A-Chain versus the Dolphins.
A-Chain as well, right?
Extremely hot at
but we also saw the Bills run it down their throats, and the Ravens do the same. So it's got to start with Henry. Harbaugh has taken him out. I think last night he learned his lesson. He kept him in there 36 carries
Liz, every time I watch Baltimore, and specifically their usage of Derrick Henry, it is a coin flip. Some games you act like they forget he's on the roster. Others, it's like, hey, man, I got this big running back who's really fast and really tough to tackle. 36 carries for him last night, right? But to me, I think that there is a fine balance, and I think that the Ravens were trying to just preserve him because of the long run. But at this stage, the same way we're talking about T.J. Watt, we're not worried about 2 weeks from now. We are trying to make it out of next week's game. So if you're healthy, you're going to play. And I assume for Baltimore, you're going to give Derrick Henry a healthy dose of the football, especially knowing that even if Lamar Jackson is back, he's going to be compromised in some capacity. You're going to make this defense, in terms of the Pittsburgh Steelers, have to stop Derrick Henry over and over and over. And I think that that's what you're looking for. And for the Steelers' perspective, it's simple. You know what you got to do. And I think that that is refreshing in a space, but at the same time, for some, I'm sure a little bit scary because of what the task is.
The one thing about Derrick Henry, he has a guy, we remember when Jerome Bettis was here and Tim Lester was the bus driver. Mm-hmm. Well, Patrick Ricard's a guy he's like an offensive lineman who can run, and he opens up, he follows him almost everywhere he goes. And last night, he was at his best.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny. I mean, we talked about Darnell Washington, right? And how he's listed at 280, but we know he's around that 300-ish range. Well, Patrick Ricard is very similar, except Patrick Ricard is about 5'9.5". So that sawed-off frame with those 300 pounds makes him look much like a guard. He looks like an offensive lineman in that backfield, and that's part of why, he is able to create some of the holes that he creates for Derrick Henry. But it doesn't matter if you're talking about from the Pittsburgh Steelers perspective, Malik Harrison, Peyton Wilson, Patrick Queen, Cam Heyward and company, they know what we have to do. And it has to start with smashing that run, and particularly turning back Patrick Ricard, which isn't an easy thing to do.
Injuries will play a role in this game, no doubt about it. The Ravens have had their share, but the Steelers now, in case you missed it at the beginning of this broadcast, Darnell Washington has a broken arm, so he'll be out of that game. Brandon Echols, along with James Pierre, missed this game. Who knows if they're going to be back? You know about the suspension to DK Metcalf, so he's not going to be available. Calvin Austin, who knows if he'll be available. But they need guys to step up in the wide receiving game, so it's not exactly the situation you would want. You'd rather have an insignificant game, guys sitting out, getting ready for the playoffs, but it's not going to be that way. Week 18, winner take all. And the Steelers will say goodbye to Cleveland. And the only guy who's won there in the last 8 trips has been Ben Roethlisberger. That was it. Ben, what are you doing? Next time they go to Cleveland, you got to get that arm loosened up. That's going to do it for us. Thank you for joining us here on the Ford Extra Point. We will take your calls coming up next on a special Steelers edition of the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call right here on KDKA TV.